So I guess this is where I dump the kind of story you don't expect to live through, definitely not something you think will start with a casual jog on a Sunday morning. But here I am, still reeling, still processing, and weirdly grateful for strangers on Reddit who might understand what the hell just happened to me. For context, I've been married to my wife, let's call her Jenna, for 5 years. We met at a friend's birthday party, the kind of meet cute people write rom-coms about. Things were easy with her. We both liked hiking, coffee dates, and staying fit. She was always pushing me to be healthier. So when she suggested we start running together every weekend, I figured, why not? Anyway, last Sunday we were out on our usual route. It's this long stretch through our neighborhood that winds down past the dog park and loops around by the boxing gym. Important detail, I'll get back to that. Jenna was a few steps ahead, earbuds in, ponytail swinging like a metronome. I remember watching her and thinking, God, I'm lucky. But then it started to get weird. As we passed the boxing gym, I noticed this group of guys standing outside. Not just standing, like, waiting. Watching. And one of them made eye contact with Jenna and gave her a look. Not a random passerby look. No, it was the kind of look that says, I know you. And she looked back. For too long. Something shifted in my gut. I slowed down. She didn't. Didn't even look back to see if I was with her. She just kept going. And that was the moment, tiny, silent, nothing said, but it was the crack in the glass before it shatters. I didn't know then what I know now. But if I could freeze that moment and scream at myself to pay attention, I would. So I catch up to her, right? I try to play it cool. I'm not the jealous type, at least I didn't used to be. But something about that moment wouldn't let go. I asked, casually, hey, you know those guys outside the boxing gym? She barely glanced at me. Huh? No. Just some dudes. Why? Lie. I don't care how tired you are from running, you don't look a stranger dead in the eye like that unless there's history. Or heat. Or both. I let it slide for the rest of the run, but my brain was chewing on it like a dog with a sock. The more I thought about it, the more I realized something's been off lately. Jenna's been distant. Not rude. Not mean. Just not there. More distracted. More texts she won't let me see. More, I'm going to the gym but coming back like she showered there, which she never used to do. I told myself I was being paranoid. Classic overthinker move, right? But the gut doesn't lie. Later that day, I got curious. I went back to the boxing gym alone. Told her I needed to clear my head. She didn't even ask why. Just nodded and went back to scrolling through her phone. I stood across the street, just watching. Waiting. And then I saw him. Same guy from earlier. Tall, lean, cocky. He came out the front door and lit a cigarette like he was starring in a bad Netflix show. And then, and I swear to God, I saw him pull out his phone and start typing. A second later, Jenna's phone buzzed back at the house. And that, my friends, was when the light bulb shattered into 1,000 pieces. So I get home, trying to act like everything's normal. Jenna's sitting on the couch, legs tucked under her, phone still in her hand. She looks up at me with this perfectly neutral expression, like the face of someone who's spent years learning how to pretend nothing's going on. I tell her I'm gonna take a shower. She barely reacts. Now, I'm not proud of this next part. I'm really not. But I waited. I timed it. When she got up to throw something away in the kitchen, she left her phone on the armrest. Unlocked. I know. But I grabbed it, fast and quiet, and opened her messages. There wasn't a name saved, just a number. But the most recent message? Could barely look at you today. He was right there. I hate this. I felt my stomach twist like I'd been punched from the inside out. I scrolled. There were more. Weeks of messages. Flirty ones. Deep ones. Late night ones. Stuff you don't say to someone you barely know. Stuff you say to someone you've already crossed a line with. And the boxing guy? His name was Dan. Apparently, they met at the gym months ago. He was her trainer. Funny, because I don't remember any stories about Dan the trainer. You know what really hurt? Not the sexting. Not even the lying. It was reading her type. I feel more alive with you than I ever have with him. Him. Me. Like I'm some faceless placeholder in her life. I put the phone down right as she walked back into the room. She didn't even notice the panic in my face. Or maybe she did. And just didn't care anymore. I didn't say anything that night. I couldn't. My throat felt like it was full of glass. I just laid in bed next to her, staring at the ceiling while she scrolled through Instagram like it was any other night in our 5-year marriage. She even kissed me goodnight. And I let her. I know. Why didn't I confront her? Why not just say something? Because when you first discover betrayal, it doesn't feel real. It feels like a bad dream that might go away if you just stay quiet long enough. Like silence will make it untrue. The next morning, I woke up before her. I just sat there and watched her sleep. Not in a cute, rom-com way. More like a man standing in the rubble of his own house, wondering how he didn't see the fire creeping up the walls. I went for a walk. No phone. No destination. Just legs moving. Mind racing. I thought about the guy Dan. How he stood there outside the gym, acting like he owned something that wasn't his. How she looked at him like maybe she didn't belong to me anymore. I thought about all the moments I didn't question. The late workouts. The times she turned away from me in bed. The way she started buying new lingerie I hadn't even seen yet. And I realized I was the idiot in the story. I had been for a while. But here's the thing, betrayal doesn't just make you sad. It makes you furious. It starts small, like a hairline fracture. But the rage builds. And the moment it hits your bones, you know you can't pretend anymore. I wasn't ready to blow everything up yet. But I was done pretending it was okay. So, now I'm sitting on this information like a bomb in my lap. Every glance at her, every word out of her mouth, it all feels like static. Fake. Like I'm watching an actress play my wife in a movie I didn't agree to star in. I started noticing more. How she suddenly never left her phone unattended. How she got dressed up for the gym like she was going to brunch with friends. How she stopped laughing at my dumb jokes, the ones she used to think were hilarious. She wasn't just distracted. She was somewhere else entirely. With him. I didn't eat much. Couldn't sleep right. I'd stare at my reflection in the bathroom mirror for minutes at a time, like I was trying to see what was so wrong with me that someone could do this. And then I made a plan. Not a dramatic one, not yet. But I decided to get real quiet. To watch. To listen. I wanted to catch the moment she lied to my face, knowing what I knew. I wanted to see it. Because part of me still didn't fully believe she could. That's when I noticed her schedule shift. She started running alone more. Said she needed solo cardio days. Said she wanted to clear her head. The irony almost made me laugh. So I followed her. One morning, she left for a run around 7 a.m. She kissed me goodbye like everything was normal, then jogged down the street. I waited a minute. Threw on sweats. Got in my car and trailed her at a distance. She didn't run toward the park like she said. She turned a corner, then another, and stopped outside the boxing gym. And guess who was waiting outside, like it was scripted? Dan. He didn't even pretend. Walked up, grabbed her waist, kissed her like no one was watching. But someone was. Me. I don't even know how long I sat there, parked across the street, watching them like some ghost in his own life. It wasn't just a kiss. It was the way she leaned into it. The way she smiled up at him like he was her real life and I was just The cover story. I felt something cold and sharp lodge itself behind my ribs. Like betrayal physically moved into my chest and made itself at home. I didn't cry. Not then. I didn't get angry, either, not the loud kind. It was a quiet, nuclear sort of anger. The kind that simmers low and deep and burns everything it touches over time. They went inside together. I didn't follow. I couldn't. I didn't want to see more. I already knew what was happening behind those doors. I had proof now, not just text messages, not just a gut feeling. Real, undeniable proof. I drove home in a daze. And when she got back an hour later, sweaty and glowing, she acted like she'd just crushed a 5-mile run. Told me she was starving. Asked if I wanted to order brunch. Brunch. After cheating. I said sure. I even picked the place. And we ate eggs and drank coffee like we weren't sitting on a landmine. You know what's wild? People think betrayal hits all at once. It doesn't. It drips in, slow and suffocating. You feel it every time they smile like nothing's wrong. Every time they touch you with hands you know have touched someone else. Every time you realize your reality was a lie long before you ever found out. But I wasn't ready to blow it all up. Not yet. I needed to be smart. I needed to protect myself. I needed proof, solid, undeniable evidence for what I was about to do next. So yeah, I got some help. You ever feel so powerless that your only option is to start taking pieces of your life back one move at a time? That's where I was. I knew if I confronted Jenna now, she'd spin it. Say I was being controlling, paranoid, that I misread what I saw. She'd probably even cry. And the worst part? A tiny, pathetic part of me might have still comforted her if she did. But I wasn't going to play defense anymore. So I called a friend, let's call him Mark. He's an old college buddy who now works in IT security and surveillance stuff. I told him I needed something discreet. He didn't ask too many questions. He just said, "You want to know everything, right?" Yes. Yes, I did. He set me up with a small recording device, audio only, small enough to slip under the passenger seat in her car. Legal? Questionable. Morally gray? For sure. But when your whole life is being turned into fiction by the person who swore to protect your heart, lines get blurry fast. The next time she said she was running errands, I slid it into place. That night, I waited until she was asleep and took it out to listen. It was quiet at first. Just the sound of her starting the car. Then music. A call. Her voice. "I told you he doesn't suspect anything. Stop freaking out." He. Me. Yeah, he's been quiet lately. I think he's just wrapped up in work. Or clueless. That one stung. No, I can't meet tonight. He's been acting weird. Like he's watching me. She laughed. Laughed. Even if he knows, what's he gonna do? Cry? That was it. That was the exact second something inside me died. Not because she cheated, but because she thought so little of me that she could do it, mock me, and still eat brunch with me the next morning. And that's when I knew I wasn't going to ask her why anymore. I was going to show her what happens when you burn the wrong person. From the outside, everything still looked normal. Picture perfect marriage. Morning coffees, casual texts, occasional dinners out. I even smiled when she talked, nodded in the right places. I kissed her forehead like I always used to. But inside? Inside, I was laying bricks. Building a wall between the man I was and the man I needed to become to survive this. I started documenting everything. I took screenshots of her messages, backed up the voice recording, took photos of her walking into the gym and coming out later with Dan. I logged timestamps. Dates. Patterns. I created a private folder on an encrypted drive. I wanted a record of the destruction. Not just for legal reasons, though that was part of it. I wanted it so I'd never gaslight myself later about what I went through. I also started separating our finances. Quietly. Carefully. I opened a new checking account. Shifted my paycheck. Changed passwords she didn't even know I'd shared. She didn't notice. She was too busy lying. And here's the kicker, I started therapy. Yeah. In the middle of all this chaos, I found a therapist who specialized in betrayal trauma. Best decision I made. Not because it fixed anything overnight, but because it gave me a place to unload without exploding. Someone to say, no, you're not crazy. This is happening. And she had one piece of advice that stuck. Don't confront until you're ready to leave, or she'll just learn how to lie better. That hit hard. So I waited. Watched. Played my role. I was no longer her husband. I was her shadow. And I was done playing the fool. You can only pretend for so long before people start to feel it. Jenna began sensing it first in little ways. I stopped asking where she was going. I stopped making plans for us. I stopped initiating anything physical. No more reaching for her hand in the car. No more forehead kisses. Just polite nods, maybe a half smile if I had the energy. She started getting twitchy. Is everything okay? She asked one night, after I came home late from work. I wasn't at work, I was meeting a divorce lawyer. Yeah, I said. All good. That was it. No follow-up. No explanation. I watched her face try to read mine. She was confused. Suspicious. A little scared, maybe. The power dynamic was shifting, and she could feel it. The next few days, she tried harder. She made my favorite dinner out of nowhere. Wore the perfume she knew I liked, one she hadn't touched in months. She even initiated sex, which felt so fake I could barely stand to be in my own skin. I didn't bite. That same week, I checked the recorder again. Another call with Dan. She was starting to worry. I think he knows something. He's being weird. Too quiet. No, I don't think he's going to do anything, but it feels off. Good. Let her feel that. She'd spent months feeding me half-truths and hiding pieces of herself in another man's arms. Now I wanted her to feel the same nauseating unease I'd been drowning in since this all started. Let her wonder. Let her sweat. Let her paranoia chew her up. She wasn't in control anymore. I was. I picked a Thursday. Don't ask me why, it just felt like the right day to end the performance. Not with a dramatic yelling match or some public scene. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of chaos. I was going to give her clarity. Cold. Surgical. I booked a hotel downtown under my name, paid in cash for the first 2 nights, and made sure all my essentials, laptop, work stuff, passport, clothes, were already packed and stashed in the trunk days before. I also prepped a printed envelope. Inside, copies of her messages, printed transcripts from her calls with Dan, bank statements showing the purchases they made together, a photo of that kiss. I labeled it for Jenna. That morning, she was all smiles again. Wore the new leggings I'd bought her last Christmas. Kissed my cheek. Told me she might meet a friend after her run. I smiled. Cool, I said. Have fun. I waited until she left. Then I set the envelope on the kitchen counter, packed the last few things I needed, walked out of the house we built together, and drove to the hotel without looking back. That night, she blew up my phone. At first, it was innocent. Hey, where are you? Everything okay? Then came the shift. Why did you leave this envelope? Are you serious right now? I can't believe you would spy on me. That's so messed up. No apology. No denial. Just outrage that I found out. I didn't respond. Not until the last message, which came after an hour of silence. Please. Just talk to me. That one hurt. Because it sounded like her. The real her. The one I used to know. The one I maybe still loved, in some sick, echo of the past kind of way. But I didn't answer. I just turned off my phone, laid on that hotel bed, and let the quiet wash over me like a tide finally pulling back. For the first time in months, I actually slept. The next morning, I woke up in a hotel bed that wasn't mine, a little confused for a second, and then it all hit me again. I'd done it. I'd left. I didn't reach for my phone. I didn't want to hear her voice, her panic, her fake concern. I didn't need her explanations or apologies that would come 2 days too late. I needed space. I needed time to process everything I'd just done and everything I was about to do. But by noon, she was at the hotel. I saw her car pull into the lot from the window, and that old familiar ache started to stir in my gut. Part of me wanted to run to her, hold her, listen to her beg, kiss her like nothing ever happened. But that part of me was already dead. I just had to finish what I started. She came up to the door, knocked softly. I didn't open it right away. Instead, I let her knock again, harder, more frantic. And when I finally opened the door, her face was red, her eyes puffy, like she'd been crying for hours. Her hair was a mess, the same leggings from yesterday, the same look of guilt that she couldn't hide. "Please," she said, voice shaky. "Let's talk." I stood there for a second. Let her look at me like I was the villain in this story. Like I was the one who tore this apart. She stepped forward, but I moved back. "You don't get to just show up here and act like I'm the one who's messed up," I said, calm as anything. "This isn't some argument you can fix with a sorry." Her breath hitched. I didn't. "Stop," I cut her off. "You don't have to lie anymore. I know everything. I know about you and Dan. I know about the texts, the calls, the pictures. I know how you felt about me the whole time." Her face drained of color. She took a step back, her voice breaking. "I didn't. You did. And now it's over." There's a silence there that you can't prepare for. It's like all the years of love, of laughter, of memories, the ones that seemed real, just vanish in that moment. She reached for me. I don't know if she expected me to pull her in, but I didn't. I just let her stand there, hands trembling. "You don't get to hurt me like this and expect me to be the same guy you left behind," I said. She went quiet. The reality of it all settled in. She knew. I knew. It was done. After that conversation, there was no going back. I gave her a week to get herself together, just a week. During that time, I moved out of the hotel and into a friend's place. I spent the next few days sorting through my options, talking to the lawyer, and making sure I had everything in order. I wasn't just ending a relationship, I was ending a life we built together, and I wasn't going to let emotion screw up the details. It wasn't just about the affair anymore. I couldn't look at her and see the woman I married. I saw someone who used me, betrayed me, and expected me to swallow it all in silence. And I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not legally, not financially. It wasn't revenge, it was just me taking back what was mine. I filed for divorce. The next time we talked, it wasn't about our past, our memories, or our so-called love. It was about dividing property. Assets. Bills. Who was getting the dog? Who would keep the apartment? Who would pay for the damn gym membership she'd kept for personal space while spending all her time with him? She didn't take it well. "You're going to take everything from me, aren't you?" she asked when we met to sign the separation papers. I didn't answer at first. I just looked at her. That familiar sadness in her eyes, that mix of guilt and helplessness, was all I needed. She didn't have the right to be the victim here. She forfeited that. "I'm just taking what's mine," I said. "You did the rest." She cried. Not loud sobs, just quiet, defeated tears. And it made something in me twist. Not out of sympathy, no, not that. But it reminded me of the woman I once thought I knew, the woman I thought would never betray me. And yet, here we were. I watched her try to call me a few times after that, but I didn't pick up. What was there to say? Nothing she could say would ever undo what had happened. It was done. After everything was signed, sealed, and processed, I moved on. Or at least, that's what I told myself. I didn't have the anger I thought I would. The burning rage that usually follows betrayal, it didn't show up. Maybe because I was too tired. Too empty. I'd been angry for months, but now that the decision was made, all that was left was this hollow feeling. It was the kind of quiet that gets inside your bones and doesn't leave. I moved into a small apartment. Not far from our old place, but far enough that I wouldn't have to see her face every day. The first few days, I didn't know what to do with myself. I'd go for long walks. I'd stare at the walls in my new space, feeling completely out of place in a life I hadn't planned. I tried to fill it with something, anything. I picked up my old hobbies again, the ones I'd put aside when I was with her. I started hitting the gym again, and I even joined a couple of meetup groups for people who liked to run. I needed something, some way to remind myself that I could be me again. That I could still find joy in the things I used to love before my life turned into a lie. But even with all the distractions, there was always that moment before I fell asleep. That quiet, unspoken reality. I kept thinking about everything I lost. Not just the marriage, but the trust. The belief that someone could love you so much and still choose someone else. What did that mean about me? I couldn't find an answer. And then, a few weeks later, Jenna tried to reach out again. I wasn't surprised. I knew she would. She needed closure. She needed to explain herself. She wanted me to forgive her. And part of me almost considered picking up the phone, hearing what she had to say. I'd listened to her side of things once already, and we both knew there was no going back. But I knew I couldn't go down that road. I couldn't be the person who gave her what she wanted just to make her feel better. Not anymore. So I blocked her number. It felt like the last step. A clean break. A way of telling myself that this chapter was over. And as strange as it sounds, I finally started feeling free. Free from the guilt, the doubt, the second guessing. It was like I could finally breathe without wondering if she was still lying to me, still hiding something. But there was still one thing left that weighed on me, the lesson I learned through all of this. So, here's what I learned. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it because this whole mess was messy. It was raw. It was painful. But if there's one thing I'd want anyone in a similar situation to know, it's this. Trust your gut. Don't let your love for someone blind you to the truth. I spent so much time second-guessing myself, convincing myself I was just being paranoid, or that I was overreacting. I doubted myself because I didn't want to lose what I had. But the thing is, I had already lost it the moment she decided to lie. The moment she chose someone else. The signs were always there, I just wasn't ready to face them. Here's the thing about betrayal, it doesn't just shatter your trust in the person who hurt you. It also makes you question yourself. You start wondering, was I not enough? Did I miss something? You start thinking it's something about you. But that's the trick. It's not about you. It's about them and their choices. And when you let that guilt or shame twist you up, you let them control your narrative long after they've left. Another thing, you don't need to get closure from the person who betrayed you. You think you do, but in reality, all you need is to acknowledge what happened, take responsibility for your own healing, and move forward. Closure isn't something someone else can give you. It's something you have to give yourself. I also learned that sometimes, even if you love someone, you need to let them go. I loved Jenna. I really did. And part of me probably always will, because we shared years of memories. But sometimes, love isn't enough to fix a broken trust. Sometimes, letting go is the most loving thing you can do for yourself. As for the legal stuff? Yeah, that's ugly. But you do what you have to do. Protect yourself, get the evidence, and don't let the emotional manipulation make you feel like you're the bad guy for wanting to move on with your life. If you're in a relationship where you're being lied to, cheated on, or mistreated, your first priority should always be to protect yourself emotionally, financially, and mentally. And lastly, don't rush the healing process. It's not about getting over it quickly. It's about learning to live with it. The pain of betrayal doesn't just disappear overnight. But eventually, you realize you're stronger than you thought. You rebuild. You start to see the world again, not through the lens of what she did to you, but through the lens of what you are capable of. I guess the last piece of advice I can give is this: trust your own strength. When everything falls apart, you're still here. And that's more than enough. So here I am, back on my feet, living a life that's mine again. It's not perfect, and honestly, it never will be. But it's my life. The scars are still there, sure. The memories, the whispers of what could have been, they still come and go like unwanted guests at the back of my mind. But I've learned to live with them. And, looking back, I can finally admit something that would have been impossible for me to say a few months ago: I'm grateful. Grateful for the pain. Grateful for the betrayal. Because it pushed me to find parts of myself I forgot existed. It forced me to reckon with who I am, what I stand for, and what I'm willing to tolerate. I don't let anyone walk over me anymore. I don't give pieces of myself away without knowing who deserves them. I've learned the value of my own peace. But here's the kicker: grief is a funny thing. You think it's linear, that you can just move on and check it off the list of things to deal with. But grief doesn't respect that. It shows up when you least expect it, during a quiet moment, in the middle of a random song on the radio, in the face of something small that reminds you of her. And that's okay. You don't have to rush through your grief. It's yours to navigate however you need to. But don't let it define you. Don't let it turn you into someone who feels like a victim of their circumstances. You're not a victim. You're a survivor. You have the power to shape your future, even when it feels impossible to move past the past. So what's next for me? I don't know. I've got plans. Things I want to accomplish. Places I want to visit. People I want to meet. And yeah, maybe I'll find someone who deserves the version of me that was hidden away for so long. Or maybe I'll just keep building on who I am now. Either way, I'm excited. I'm not saying I have all the answers. I don't. But I've learned one crucial thing through all of this: you're never as powerless as you feel. Not when you take control of your life. Not when you set boundaries and stand firm in your own worth. If there's one thing I can leave you with, it's this: don't let someone's betrayal make you forget how strong you are. You will get through it. You'll rebuild, maybe not the way you thought you would, but stronger than you ever were before. And eventually, the pain fades. And when it does, you'll be the one standing tall.